Yo, it's Kaufman is Alive. I look at comic books new and old. Today I'm looking at all the new comic books that I feel like you guys should be reading right now. There's always a lot of talk about comic books are dying. No one reads comic books anymore. There's no good comic books. Since 2016, they've all been woke or whatever. But I'm here to tell you there's a lot of great comic books out there right now that are being printed, that are at your comic shops right now. Brand new comics that you can go out and buy that are exciting and fun. Um, they don't have to force their political views on you or anything. They're just fun superhero comics. So I'm going to be looking through those today and checking out all the series that I personally enjoy and some series that I'm collecting full runs on. You know, your mileage may vary. You might not agree with everything I'm saying here. There might be some comics in here that I really love that you don't like at all. Some creators you may not like. But that's fine. That's what being a nerd is all about. That's what comics are all about. Like when we were kids, I might think Spider Man is cooler than Spawn. You might think Spawn's cooler than Spider Man. And we can have little nerd debates trying to figure out who's better, who's more powerful, all that kind of cool stuff. Which universe is better, DC or Marvel? All that kind of stuff is really fun to debate. So that's what I love about comic books. So I just want to encourage all you guys to go out, support comic books, buy comic books. And if you can't find new comic books that you like, there's always back issues. Tons of back issues. There's more back issues than you'll ever be able to read. So we'll get into it here. First of all, Spawn Universe. Spawn Universe, very accessible, still going today. Most Spawn comics are only $2.99, which is cheaper than the other big two. Marvel and DC usually has $3.99 books. So really easy to get into the Spawn comics. They kind of relaunched Spawn a couple years ago with this Spawn Universe one-shot. They kind of introduced a whole bunch of new Spawn characters like She-Spawn. We've got Gunslinger Spawn and the Scorched, who's like the Spawn team led by She-Spawn. So all these series are going out now. They're all ongoing series. I've got full runs on them right now. They've always got really top creators on here, I feel like. Brett Booth's been doing the artwork on Gunslinger, and then he switched over to the main Spawn title, which is still going to today, up to like almost issue 360, I believe. And this is a Brett Booth connecting variant covers here from when they launched these first issues. So really cool stuff here. Definitely recommend the Spawn titles, even if there's you don't like them all. There's probably one you can find that you like. They've also got some Spawn miniseries going out. They've always got these going on. Violator, I highly recommend. And same with Spawn Kills Every Spawn. Two totally different tones for these books. This book is like a little bit more serious, kind of a sprawling epic with some just amazing artwork in here by various artists on each issue. And then Spawn Kills Every Spawn is just ridiculous, cartoonish story, just taking the piss out of all the Spawn comics. So, highly recommend Spawn. You can usually find something good in the Spawn universe. Then we've got, speaking of universes, we've got the Energon universe, and just licensed products in general. There's kind of a comeback of the licensed products in comic books. We've always seen like G.I. Joe comics, things like that. But Skybound, an Image imprint run by Robert Kirkman from Walking Dead, he's gotten the rights to G.I. Joe, Transformers. Void Rivals is another project that's involved in this universe as well. I've got they reprinted the first issue from Marvel of G.I. Joe under Skybound, which is really cool. But I highly recommend these series. They're connected. G.I. Joe and Transformers. This is all in the same universe, the Energon universe, like I said. The G.I. Joe comics are pretty awesome. Larry Hama has been writing them. There's been some various artists, but they've all been pretty solid artists here. Chris Mooneyham was doing a really great job on the first 5 or so issues. And Andy Kubert's been doing all the covers for this. And they've been releasing variant covers with just the pencil and inks, which look really great. So some really awesome Andy Kubert covers. if you haven't been reading G.I. Joe, I highly recommend that because it's just a really fun, kind of military superhero adventure kind of comic with some really awesome characters. They're really nailing it on all of these comic books. And over at Dynamite, they've got some pretty good licensed properties as well. They just relaunched Space Ghost, which has been a pretty awesome book. I've got the Bjorn Bjerns cover here of Space Ghost. I really love this. It's not a campy style comic book like you might expect either. It's very much based in, typical superhero genre. Slightly gritty, lots of action, lots of heart. So, highly recommend all those. Then we'll get into some of the big two comics that are going on right now that I'd recommend. Now, we got World's Finest, which was written by Mark Waid and Dan Mora. And they've been doing a really great job on all these issues, and they're about to start the new Justice League Unlimited, which looks like a pretty cool series. And they wrote the Absolute Power miniseries that led us into All In, DC All In, and Absolute Batman, and all this fun stuff. But it kind of all started with World's Finest when Waid and Mora were getting together here, telling some really great Batman and Superman stories. So I highly recommend that series, along with Absolute Batman, obviously, that just came out. It was a huge hit. The DC All-In special was pretty awesome too. Really looking forward to seeing how this Absolute universe shakes out at DC. It's a great jumping on point if you haven't been reading DC comics or just comics in general. I feel like this is going to be a really great jumping on point for people. So if you can even find Absolute Batman, go out and look for it. The second printing, I think, comes out tomorrow, so you might be able to pick up a second printing because I know all those first printings are sold out. So, and speaking of like pocket universes, we've got the Ultimate Universe by Marvel, which is another great jumping on point for people if you haven't been reading comic books, especially Spider-Man fans. This Jonathan Hickman reboot of Spider-Man is pretty great. We've got an aged up Peter. He's in his late 30s. He's married to Mary Jane. They've got 2 kids. And he's just learning how to be Spider-Man. So, a really different kind of Spider-Man story. And I've really enjoyed it. There's been some slow issues. I think with every series that you're trying to collect perhaps a full run on, there's definitely going to be a few filler issues here and there. Some issues you might not like. But for Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate Black Panther, the Ultimates, I think those are really great. I kind of dropped off on Uncanny X-Men. It was moving a little too slow, not quite what I expected. I like Peach Momoko's got an original style as far as Marvel Comics goes, but I'd recommend the Ultimate Universe in general if you haven't been reading that. It's really refreshing read. We've got the Fantastic Four series here, which I'm not recommending this series in general, but I just wanted to show off the Alex Ross cover here and just let you know if you're kind of a lapsed comic book fan. Alex Ross still does come around. They have him doing covers all the time. He was doing all the covers on this Fantastic Four series up to a point. And so if you're a fan of Alex Ross, he is still out there doing work. So I highly recommend checking out anything he's been doing because I'm a big fan of Alex Ross. I've got the X-Men here, the X-Men relaunch that just happened this year. I've been a pretty big fan of it. I really like Jed MacKay and Ryan Stegman's adjectiveless X-Men book. But I've got the Gail Simone, David Marquez X-Men series here. Here's the Ryan Stegman one. Really like this series a lot. In even the issues that Stegman's not on, you got Nitho Diaz doing the artwork, and he is doing a really great job filling in. This has been a fun series, very episodic. If you've been lapsed on X-Men because maybe you didn't like the Krakoan era, I'd recommend these books. They're a lot of fun. You don't have to think too hard, really, about them like you might have in the Krakoan era. And this just started. You can still probably go back up and start from issue 1 from all these X-Men books and pick them up. I'm only reading X-Men and Uncanny X-Men and Wolverine, the main Wolverine series. So not picking up any of the others. Your mileage might vary on what you like as far as those X-Men books. But they're kind of bringing it back to how the status quo used to be. We've I've also got Moon Knight by Jed MacKay as well, and Alessandra Cappuccio doing a lot of the artwork on that. This was the first issue of the Jed MacKay Moon Knight, which I went 30 issues, and then they rebooted it back to #1, Vengeance of Moon Knight, and we just saw the release of the Moon Knight Fist of Khonshu series, and those are all connected, and they're all done by the same creative team here. So we get a linear story between all three of those series, which is pretty cool. This has been an awesome book. One of my favorite Marvel books has been this Moon Knight run by Jed MacKay. So I highly recommend picking those up. They just restarted Moon Knight back at issue #1 a couple weeks ago, so you can go back and have a nice jumping on point there. Then I've got, if you like some of the 90s creators like Erik Larsen, Rob Liefeld, the Kubert brothers, we've got Greg Capullo here. They're kind of the only guys from that old school era still working. I love seeing Greg Capullo back at Marvel. He's doing this Wolverine Revenge book. I recommend picking this up while you can. Also, Rob Liefeld's doing a mini-series, Deadpool Team Up. This is his last Marvel book, so I highly recommend getting this while you can. It's been a lot of fun. And the Kubert brothers, specifically Adam Kubert, still doing interior work at Marvel. He was doing a lot of the work on the main Wolverine series during the Krakoa era. He just did this Deadpool Wolverine World War III series. And really awesome to see the Kubert brothers still working. We saw Andy on the G.I. Joe covers. I haven't seen a lot of Andy Kubert interiors, but we know Andy's still, Adam is still doing them. So some cool mini-series out by Marvel. There's always going to be a good Wolverine series you can probably find. Even if might be a bad one out, there's usually 2 or 3 Wolverine series going on at once. And I mentioned Larsen a few minutes ago, Erik Larsen, the creator of Savage Dragon. This is a comic book that's still going today. He's my favorite artist. And even though these issues, the recent ones, maybe don't hit quite as hard as the original Savage Dragons, this is still a solid book. And sometimes hard to find, depending on where you live. So if you've got a comic shop in your city that doesn't carry Savage Dragon, you might want to talk to them and see about picking them up. So, highly recommend Dragon. A lot of fun. And like I said, if you can't find a new comic book, there's always plenty of back issues. There's facsimile editions that Marvel and DC are always putting out. These are all facsimile editions. They put out some foil variant facsimiles. Sometimes you can find those. So there's always fun at the comic shop. So get down there, support comics, read comics. Thanks for watching my video. I'll see you guys on the next one.